Dear straight men, as a woman, I have noticed men are far less generous with rating women out of 10 than women are rating themselves. Women on my level, who are realistically only a bit above average, around 6, would typically give themselves maybe an 8 and see that as an insult. However, men don't mind saying they'd honestly like a 7 and that it's a decent rating to be. I've also heard men say 9 out of 10 is supermodel level. If a supermodel is a 9, I'm genuinely curious who is a 10 out of 10 in a man's eyes. Do they exist? I know it will differ from man to man depending on taste, but I'm curious to know who is widely considered a 10 out of 10. Note, I know some people don't like the idea of ranking people on such a scale. I get it. Just ignore the post. Edit. I am very surprised no one has said Angelina Jolie. Story 1. I work in media, specifically in film and television. I see what you would consider 9s and 10s all the time. Trust me, I'll take a 6 or 7 with the right attitude over 9 or 10 that's a hot mess. That being said, there was a 10 working for us as on-air talent. The nicest, sweetest person I met. She never had a boyfriend. I caught up with her a few years ago. She's married with 2 kids. I asked about the husband, and she told me that he came up to her at a bar and started a pleasant conversation. Most guys, she said, would have a lame pickup line, be too aggressive, or worse yet, be intimidated. I wish nothing but the best for her. We took a professional risk with each other, and it has paid off for both parties. Story 2. To put this into perspective, the higher on the scale you go, the fewer people you should expect to be at that number. I meet 3s to 7s all the time in my daily life. 8s are seen maybe on a weekly basis. I might see a 9 like once or twice a year. A 10, though? I have only ever met 2 women in my life that I would rate a 10 because everything about her was beautiful. No physical flaws, perfect body ratios, a nice voice, and no personality flaws that made them unpleasant to be around. Story 3. In my eyes, my wife is a 10. I love everything about her. I would not change a single thing. We are celebrating 20 years as a couple this month. So what makes a man see a woman as a 10? From my point of view, true love. Story 4. The summer after I started dating my girlfriend, she went back to her home country and attended a wedding as a bridesmaid. She was dressed and made up to the nines, and someone got a picture of her playing MC at just the right moment of one of her giggles and smiles. That picture is, as honest as I can possibly be, the most beautiful shot of the most beautiful woman I have ever known in my entire life. To answer your question, I don't think there is such a thing as a universal 10 out of 10. 1 or 2 of the comments here of women who are widely considered top-tier beauty have some "honestly she's just meh for me" responses. There is a Venn diagram of personality, individual qualities, physical features, psychological makeup, and sociocultural factors that play into the individual ranking, which would make it impossible for any one person to embody beauty. Story 5. 10 out of 10 implies perfection. Can you think of a person so beautiful in every aspect and without at least a few flaws? It's unreal. You don't meet these kinds of people in real life. 9 out of 10 is indeed supermodel level. You don't really meet these either, except for when you live a certain lifestyle where there are supermodels present. 8 out of 10 is a woman who is stunning and way out of my league. I wouldn't even think about approaching her. 7 out of 10 are like women I dare to get a crush on. Probably still out of my league, but there's hope. Pretty face and attractive body. Not flawless, but the flaws she has give her character and make her cuter. I would still put her on a pedestal, probably. 6 out of 10 is where I'm comfortable. Nothing is insulting looking. She has a bit of style but is overall kind of average. Her body is still attractive, but there's room for flaws. Maybe some acne and uneven skin tone, not exactly skinny, but not overweight either. 5 out of 10 is absolutely average. She doesn't excite me, but she also doesn't repel me. 4 out of 10 repels me a bit. Maybe she's a little too big, has bad hygiene, or something like that. 3 out of 10 I might consider if the party is wild. I find her cool, and I am very desperate because it's been years. The worst-looking woman I could conceivably be intimate with, and I would regret it the day after. 2 out of 10 is very unattractive, like too old, too big, smelly, missing teeth, and so on. I could not be intimate with her if she was the last woman on earth. 1 out of 10 practically does not exist, just as the 10 out of 10. A woman so repelling in every way, you don't meet her in real life because she's extremely overweight and can't leave her couch. So yeah, if you're like a 5 to 7, that's really not an insult. Story 6. As a woman, I have noticed men are far less generous with rating women out of 10 than women are with rating themselves, but more generous than women rate men. Women are weird, though. They really expect you to see them as a 10 out of 10 when dating, and if you don't, they get super offended. They basically invite dishonesty. I don't think a 10 really exists. 10 is a 9 on a good hair day with great lighting. But one of my all-time favorites is 1990s Jennifer Connelly. Story 7. In my estimation, 9 is a kind of universally appreciable beauty, and 10 is particular to him. It might seem counterintuitive. It really just means that she suits basically every single detail he likes. It's not seeing past flaws either. It's that he actually likes all of those things. Others might not agree. For example, I'm looking at other recommendations people listed, and I flat out don't understand some of them. At the same time, I'm certain my ex-wife was a 10 and also certain she'd be a 9 or even lower to others. Assuming this is just physical anyway. Story 8. All you need to know is that the likelihood of you or any other woman you know being a universal 10 is next to 0. It is so improbable that any woman can pass that metric that it is disingenuous for us to even try and provide examples. You are right, 9 times out of 10 you are an average woman. You have a unique personality and consciousness, and I say growing that personality to reflect your outer world is more worthwhile than the vain pursuit of perfection most women will never achieve. Story 9. What most women fail to realize is that perfection is unattainable. There has only been one perfect person born of a woman. Another thing some women fail to realize is how a bell curve works. The vast majority of the population will fall between 3 and 7. A final thing women fail to think about is that a lot of men rate 1 to 10 on 3 different criteria: body, personality, and overall appearance. A woman can be stunning but have a bad personality and instantly be a 4 or 5. Story 10. Number ratings make no sense to me at all. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and makes any type of universal object rating standard mythical at best and impossible at worst. As several commentators have already pointed out, many men see looks, personality, intelligence, and sense of humor as different but related. These get ranked individually and then combined in some strange, ineffable algorithm to arrive at a completely subjective number. It is like a complex blood pressure rating, where we have to call out all the numbers in relation to each other. Then it all gets thrown out the window when we find a woman who likes us as much as we like her. Any woman who agrees to spend time with us in a romantic way gets an exponential boost, and when a breakup occurs, that boost gets reduced by some formula I still haven't worked out. Story 11. It is figurative. It does not exist. All humans can always improve themselves. 5 out of 10 is average. 80% of the human race exists between a 4 and a 6. Anything over a 9 earns a living, or at least could, with their looks. When women call themselves 10 out of 10, they genuinely look stupid. Story 12. I've met one 10. The best-looking woman I have ever met. We met in the hostel I was staying in Thailand at the time. Just a stunning woman and really nice to talk to. Story 13. This is not a real question at all. We all have our preferences. I personally hate the supermodel look. I have no interest in a thigh gap, and I find nothing appealing about an elbow being the thickest part of an arm. That doesn't mean I'm objectively right, because beauty is always subjective. That's not a cop-out either. I like curves. Others do not. Big deal. Stop seeking this kind of input from others. Just be cool with you. Honestly, I think that is the sexiest trait there is. Story 14. It's all subjective honesty. I personally am into darker features, so a blonde-haired white girl wouldn't be as appealing to me as, say, a black or Hispanic girl. Everyone has their own preferences. A 10 is what you think a 10 is, if that makes sense. Story 15. Are you saying that women lie to their above-average female friends that they are an 8 out of 10? I believe that's what women call building each other up. Gal Gadot is a 10 out of 10 for me. Story 16. Guys or even girls calling themselves 10s to the average everyday girl is exaggerating. This doesn't mean you aren't attractive or cute, but 8s, 9s, and 10s are print models, supermodels, and people making money off of their looks. For example, Sydney Sweeney, young Halle Berry, and young Megan Fox. Being a 5, 6, or 7 is not a negative thing, nor should it be perceived as such. Most people are average, a lot of people are cute, and some are pretty or handsome. And then there are genetic lottery winners, but they are the minority. None of this takes away from you being beautiful or perfect in your partner's eyes, but from an objective perspective, no. Story 17. Someone who is authentic, has sculpted their body to its best form, and confidently wears what looks good on them. They have no plastic surgery and look beautiful without makeup. They are a joy to talk to and fun to hang out with. This is my 10. Story 18. There's objective and subjective. But objectively, the world is filled with just your average person, 3 to 6. In my opinion, you're above average, 7 to 8. Then you have 9s and 10s. I rarely see a 9, and I usually see more above average women, 7 to 8, than I ever see 9s and 10s. 10s are like once in a while. I've only ever seen maybe one woman in my life that I would no doubt consider a 10, and she looked like a walking supermodel. Like she magically appeared right out of an advertisement. I've only had one woman I've seen like that. There wasn't a thing wrong with her, like she was made in a lab or something. Personality, great hair, great body, great style. And I met her in a Paris airport bar during a layover, and I've seen some women that I would subjectively consider a 10. Men seem to be more honest and lowball their number when it comes to the attractiveness scale. Story 19. In order to have a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest you could possibly rate someone, each and every 10 would have to be literally perfect. If there is even a single area where they can improve or where they are not quite as good as someone else, they cannot be classified as a 10. I do not think there is a single woman out there that rates a 10, just like I do not think there is a single man out there that rates a 10. Most of us are average. Some are slightly better and some are slightly worse. I am a 4 on a good day, and I understand that. I just wish women were as honest with themselves as men are with themselves and women. Story 20. Simple answer. There are no 10s in my opinion. A person rating themselves 10 out of 10 would imply they find there is no need for improvement and they are perfect. But everyone has shortcomings. Rating yourself a 10 out of 10 signals there is no capacity for self-reflection. I think guys tend to rate themselves and others more realistically. It can be because they tend to be more on the receiving end of rejection. So that brings with it a little bit of humility, or at least a more realistic outlook on where you stand on an attractive level. Story 21. A 10 is someone you'll never forget after seeing them one time for a very brief moment. 9s are the people who get head turns anywhere they go, but you go about your day and forget about them. I've only seen 2 10s in my 32-year life. The last one I saw about 6 months ago, and I could describe every single feature of her face to you, and only had about 8 seconds of time to look. Literally the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen, movie stars included. Like a mixture of pre-plastic surgery Erin Moriarty and Amber Heard, like 10 years ago. Story 22. I am 57 and have seen my partner with and without makeup, dressed to impress and early in the morning the next day, posing for a family portrait and after having just delivered one of those same children. I know that what our culture calls a 10 is at best an 8 without the makeup and trappings. In my mind's eye, I also see the 10 a woman could be under different circumstances. Truly, you ladies have no idea how gorgeous you all are. Story 23. I'm genuinely curious about who is considered a perfect 10 in a man's eyes. Every now and then, I see a woman who is so beautiful that for the first few seconds of seeing her, I think, wow. At that moment, she's flawless, a perfect 10. Then I look closer and start noticing the flaws and imperfections. I've never seen a woman who has a perfect face. Women can be delusional about their own beauty. My guess is that it's because of the unspoken agreement women have with each other to lie about how pretty their friends are. So, their friends do it for them too, and everyone feels like a supermodel. Story 24. Yeah, I'm not sure who you're talking to, but guys who have seen Gilligan's Island, ask them, Ginger or Mary, and most guys pick the farmer's daughter, Mary, and Not Ginger, the actress and model. Story 25. It's the hot crazy matrix. Hotness is 1 through 10, and crazy is 4 through 10. Finding a woman who is less than a 5 crazy, but 9 or 10 hot is incredibly rare and borderline unicorn territory. Story 26. Monica Bellucci, Penelope Cruz, and Halle Berry are all 9s at their current age. These 3 women were definitely 10s at ages 18 to 25 in my opinion. I hope the examples help with the illustration. Story 27. A 10, objectively speaking, does not exist because that implies that the person is perfect in all aspects of preference. You can show me a supermodel, and I will show you the line of partners that is tired of their behavior. A 10, subjectively speaking, exists because people will overlook whatever flaws a person has so they can stop being alone. Story 28. I don't think guys do this in real life. I've been a man for 40 years and never once heard someone rate a woman on a 10-point scale. The internet paints a different picture. Story 29. Mathematically speaking, 95% of people sit between 3 and 7, with 2.5% being above a 7, and 2.5% being below a 3. Less than 1% are above a 9. Those people who rate themselves a 10 are usually mid to high 6s at best. There are a few algorithms people use to calculate their attractiveness from a mathematical standpoint. But being at 10 doesn't mean much, given approximately 60% of the population is a 5. Find beauty in other people's minor flaws and embrace your own. Story 30. I don't think that 10 exists. It would mean absolute perfection everywhere. And since beauty is subjective, the same man could rate the same woman differently depending on the day. For me, 10 is the kind of beauty that starts wars literal goddess level. 9 is usually only seen with professional makeup. A natural 9 is very rare.